PowerShell is a command line shell and a scripting language all in one. It was designed as a task engine that uses conduits to wrap tasks that people need to do. In PowerShell, you can run commands on local or remote machines. You can do tasks like managing users and automating workflows. Whether you're part of an operations team or a development team that's adopting DevOps principles, PowerShell can help. You can use it to address various tasks, such as managing cloud resources and continuous integration and continuous delivery, CI/CD. PowerShell offers many helpful commands, but you can expand its capabilities at any time by installing modules. When you install PowerShell, you can evaluate its features to see if it's a good fit for your team. PowerShell consists of two parts, a command line shell and a scripting language. It started out as a framework to automate administrative tasks in Windows. PowerShell has grown into a cross-platform tool that's used for many kinds of tasks. A command line shell lacks a graphical interface, where you use a mouse to interact with graphical elements. Instead, you type text commands into a computer console. Here are some of the benefits of using a console. Interacting with a console is often faster than using a graphical interface. In a console, you can run batches of commands, so it's ideal for task automation for continuous integration pipelines. You can use a console to interact with cloud resources and other resources. You can store commands and scripts in a text file and use a source control system. This is probably one of the biggest benefits, because your commands are repeatable and auditable. In many systems, especially government systems, everything must be traced and evaluated, or audited. Audits cover everything from database changes to changes done by a script. Features: PowerShell shares some features with traditional shells. Built-in help system: most shells have some kind of help system, in which you can learn more about a command. For example, you can learn what the command does and what parameters it supports. The help system in PowerShell provides information about commands and also integrates with online help articles. Pipeline: traditional shells use a pipeline to run many commands sequentially. The output of one command is the input for the next command. PowerShell implements this concept like traditional shells, but it differs because it operates on objects over text. You'll learn more about this feature later in this module. Aliases: aliases are alternate names that can be used to run commands. PowerShell supports the use of common aliases such as CLS, clear the screen, and LS, list the files. Therefore, new users can use their knowledge of other frameworks and don't necessarily have to remember the PowerShell name for familiar commands. PowerShell differs from a traditional command line shell in a few ways. It operates on objects over text. In a command line shell, you have to run scripts whose output and input might differ, so you end up spending time formatting the output and extracting the data you need. By contrast, in PowerShell you use objects as input and output. That means you spend less time formatting and extracting. It has conduits. Commands in PowerShell are called conduits, pronounced commandlets. Unlike many other shell environments, in PowerShell conduits are built on a common runtime rather than separate executables. This characteristic provides a consistent experience in parameter parsing and pipeline behavior. Conduits typically take object input and return objects. The core conduits in PowerShell are built in .NET Core, and are open source. You can extend PowerShell by using more conduits, scripts, and functions from the community and other sources, or you can build your own conduits in .NET Core or PowerShell. It has many types of commands. Commands in PowerShell can be native executables, conduits, functions, scripts, or aliases. Every command you run belongs to one of these types. The words command and conduit are often used interchangeably, because a conduit is a type of command. Installation: in this module, you will practice using PowerShell on your computer. PowerShell is available across platforms, but if you use a computer that runs Linux, Mac OS, or an older version of Windows, you will need to install it. Instructions for installing PowerShell are different for each OS. Before you continue, take a few minutes to install PowerShell or to verify your PowerShell installation. The next unit in this module shows you how to verify your installation. Windows. If you're running Windows 8 or later, a version of PowerShell called Windows PowerShell should already be installed. This version differs slightly from the most up-to-date PowerShell release, but it works fine for learning purposes. You can open Windows PowerShell from the Start menu. Other operating systems. If your computer runs something other than Windows 8 or later, you need to install PowerShell. To find the installation instructions for your OS, see Install various versions of PowerShell. PowerShell extension for Visual Studio Code. We recommend that you use the PowerShell extension for Visual Studio Code to author your PowerShell scripts and to run the commands in this module. This extension lets you run commands, and also helps you with snippets, code completion, and syntax highlighting. This module requires a sandbox to complete. A sandbox gives you access to free resources. Your personal subscription will not be charged. The sandbox may only be used to complete training on Microsoft Learn. Use for any other reason is prohibited, and may result in permanent loss of access to the sandbox. Microsoft provides this lab experience and related content for educational purposes. All presented information is owned by Microsoft and intended solely for learning about the covered products and services in this Microsoft Learn module. The output provides information about your PowerShell version, as well as your platform and edition. For information limited to your version of PowerShell, you can run a modified version of Dollops version table. The output provides information about your PowerShell version, as well as your platform and edition. For information limited to your version of PowerShell, you can run a modified version of Dollops version table. Running Dollops version table results in output that looks like a table, but is actually an object. For this reason, you can use a period, dot, to access a specific property, such as PS version. A condolt, pronounced commandlet, is a compiled command. A condolt can be developed in .NET or .NET Core and invoked as a command within PowerShell. Thousands of condolts are available in your PowerShell installation. The challenge lies in discovering what they are and what they can do for you. Condolts are named according to a verb-noun naming standard. This pattern can help you to understand what they do and how to search for them. It also helps condolt developers create consistent names. You can see the list of approved verbs by using the getVerb condolt. Verbs are organized by activity type and function. Here's a part of the output from running getVerb. This listing shows the verb and its description. Condolt developers should use an approved verb, and also ensure that the verb description fits their condolt's function. 3 core condolts allow you to delve into what condolts exist and what they do. Get command. The get command condolt lists all of the available condolts on your system. Filter the list to quickly find the command you need. Get help. Run the get help core condolt to invoke a built-in help system. You can also run an alias help command to invoke get help but improve the reading experience by paginating the response. Get member. When you call a command, the response is an object that contains many properties. Run the get member core condolt to drill down into that response and learn more about it. Locate commands by using get command. When you run the get command condolt in Cloud Shell, you get a list of every command that's installed in PowerShell. Because thousands of commands are installed, you need a way to filter the response so you can quickly locate the command that you need. To filter the list, keep in mind the verb-noun naming standard for condolts. For example, in the getRandom command, get is the verb and random is the noun. Use flags to target either the verb or the noun in the command you want. The flag you specify expects a value that's a string. You can add pattern matching characters to that string to ensure you express that. For example, a flag's value should start or end with a certain string. These examples show how to use flags to filter a command list. Noun. The noun flag targets the part of the command name that's related to the noun. That is, it targets everything after the hyphen. Here's a typical search for a command name. This command searches for all condolts whose noun part starts with a noun. Verb. The verb flag targets the part of the command name that's related to the verb. You can combine the noun flag and the verb flag to create an even more detailed search query and type. Here's an example. Now you've narrowed the search to specify that the verb part needs to match get, and the noun part needs to match a noun. In this unit, you'll use Azure Cloud Shell on the right as your Linux terminal. You can access Cloud Shell through the Azure portal or the Cloud Shell sign-in. You don't have to install anything on your PC or laptop to use it. Here, you'll run commands that will help you learn more about PowerShell. PowerShell isn't something you learn overnight, it's learned command by command. You can speed up your learning by effectively using the core condolts. Locate a command. Locate commands by running the get command condolt. The condolt helps you search all of the condots installed on your system. Use flags to narrow down your search results to just the condots that fit your scenario. In this scenario, you're looking for a condolt that can help you work with files. Run the command get command with the flag noun. Specify file asterisk to find anything related to files. The condots get file hash, out file, and unblock file all match your query. Now, you have a manageable response. To further filter the response, add the verb parameter to your query. Run get command. Specify the flags verb and noun. This time, only one record matches your search, because you specified both the noun parameter and the verb parameter. Because the domain you work in is file management, you specified file as the noun. If you know what you want to do within that domain, you can specify verb parameters. By using one or possibly two parameters, you can quickly find the condolt you need. Choose the best response for each question, then select check your answers. Summary completed 100 XP 1 minute in this module. You started by learning what PowerShell is and what you can use it for. You explored its primary features, and how it differs from traditional shells like Git Bash. You also looked at how to install PowerShell, and briefly explored authoring it by using Visual Studio Code and an extension. You then learned about compiled commands called condots. You looked specifically at a command called get command that helps you locate the command you need. You should now have a good understanding of PowerShell, what it's used for, and how to use its commands efficiently.